From the Post-Millennial, breaking: InfoWars reporter Jamie White brutally murdered in his apartment on Sunday night. White was pronounced dead in the hospital. The investigation remains ongoing, and authorities have yet to release further details. Now, I believe that InfoWars is, Alex, they're basically saying this has more to do with the lax on crime policies of Democrats, not that it's anything related to any kind of investigation or, nefarious or malicious deeds. We don't know. But I got to say, based on it being InfoWars, the first place my mind goes to is, what was this guy investigating? Because I'm sorry, I mean no disrespect to Alex, but I don't think he pays the kind of money that would result in a strong-armed robbery and some burglary in someone's home of a reporter to end their life. Like journalists tend not to be the targets of people looking for money. Maybe you want to go to somebody who's rich in a rich neighborhood.
Somebody who doesn't have an apartment, like he was killed in his apartment. And of course, sometimes it's as simple as drugs were involved and people fought over them and there was a debt. Who knows? But I don't know, man. I don't know.
I've been chased by zombies in Austin on 6th Street. So you do know, we've been there. Like it's some pretty gnarly spots in Austin where crime is totally allowed. Bad addicts are all over the place. They
say he was working late at the InfoWars studio Sunday night. He was found outside his home just a few miles from the studio, and he was pronounced dead at the hospital. So maybe someone just ran up to him and attacked him.
Yeah, there's good.
There was another story recently, but this is not even unique for me to say, where a guy walked up to a woman and just stabbed her in the back with a knife. I think it was in like D.C. or something. Mm-hmm. There's so many stories like that all over the place.
Yep.
That maybe that's just it. Maybe he was just a victim of a random attack. I don't know. Coincidence is...
It's hard knowing it's a journalist from InfoWars, of course, but I knew someone who was attacked like that in a supermarket. Random person just walked to the supermarket and just had a victim in mind, anyone with a knife, and took him out. And made no sense, right? They didn't know him, nothing. It's just that guy was bloodthirsty that day and crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's really, really, really hard to be, to hear these kind of stories and give any kind of advice, because sure, when you're in, like, you can hear things like you want to be aware when you're in transitional spaces, right? When you get out of your car, when you're getting in your car, those are the kind of places where people attack you. When you're walking out of work, walking into work, those are the kind of places where attacks happen. But it's really hard to constantly be aware, like your friend that you're talking about, just walking through the supermarket, randomly, that kind of stuff can happen. And again, like I watch a lot of attacks and stuff like that on YouTube. Like that's interesting to me to see the way that people actually do attack. And it's like, it's a good idea to look people in the eyes when you're walking around, because if you make eye contact with people, they tend to decide to find someone else, because it's not about looking like you're tough. It's not about looking like you're some kind of badass. All you have to do is look like you're not an easy target.
So we do have some updates. So refresh the page. They say InfoWars reporter Jamie White was found unresponsive late Sunday, and what authorities are investigating as a murder. He was pronounced dead after being taken to the local hospital. Austin Police Department officers responded to a high-priority emergency call at approximately 11:57 p.m. Officers arrived 2 minutes later and found White with obvious signs of trauma. The investigation is ongoing, and authorities have not confirmed the nature of White's injuries or released information about potential suspects. This marks Austin's eighth homicide this year. Ratliff said this is pretty early on in the investigation, and the homicide unit will be releasing more information as they're able. That's the APD public information officer. They're going to say a statement from InfoWars. Jamie's tragic death will not be in vain, and those responsible for the senseless violence will be brought to justice. Jones blamed Soros Austin, Texas DA Jose Garza partially for the murder. White was working late Sunday night. He was found just a few outside his home. He was found at his home a few miles from the studio. And we have this other quote. When you see the Soros DAs in control of over 800 jurisdictions protecting serious narcotic and human trafficking gangs, and you see different feds and ICE calling in warnings for most violent gangs in the world that there are ICE raids coming, Pam Bondi's saying that they're preparing to indict some of these people, that there are so many communist traitors in the government that they're doing polygraphs. Jones said in the show, this is a crisis. Defunding the police, all of this has been to destabilize society. So Jones went on to say, despite Austin being a war zone at night in many areas, the police were there in 2 minutes and got on the hospital in just 15 to 20. He was announced dead there. That's service. You can't do your job when you don't have enough people. So,
remember that story?
I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Well, then maybe save it for the uncensored portion if it's
too spicy,
beyond the pale, or too spicy.
Okay.
Remember that story last year? They found like 10 bodies in the lake in Austin.
And there's a serial killer.
That was a rumor. I don't know if they really believed it, but it was
people keep falling off the bridge.
Yeah, falling.
And we talked about that, and they keep saying like, no, there's something going on. But wasn't it like there's someone who was drugged and then escaped?
I think that was one of the stories. Yeah.
Yeah. A guy was drugged at a bar, brought to the bridge, but then like fought off the dude and then ran off.
Yeah. Austin's wild.
Dude. Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous. The fact that there are DAs that don't actually put people that are dangerous away because of things like restorative justice, which are phrases that you hear on the left all the time, which are just ridiculous concepts, whole cloth idiocy. You have to take people that are dangerous off the streets.
Yeah.
That is job number one for any kind of reasonable law enforcement agency. And if you're not going to take them off the streets, then you have to empower citizens to defend themselves, because something must deter criminals. And if you do not put them away and they are not afraid of the people that they are victimizing, then there is no deterrence, and they are just going to keep committing crimes, and they're going to keep victimizing.
I don't know. I think it's compassionate to release murderers.
You held your straight face for about 1.
I'm from New York.
Seconds.
That's what they did. Yeah, that's what they did in New York during COVID. Just release them all. And that's where we're at now.
Man, I got to wonder, though, is this all turning around? I mean, with Trump in office, it's been a month. It's been a month and a half. Trump is making big moves against bureaucratic and deep state infrastructure. After this, we're already seeing the pickup in law enforcement with Cash and Pam Bondi. I know everyone's upset over the Epstein files. I'd like to see them too. But Cash, he got 2 guys who were selling secrets in the army or whatever.
That was great.
Yeah, so
actually, I think it was 3, wasn't it?
Was it 3? The work has begun. So we're going to need to see some top-level infrastructure in law enforcement that is going to direct local law enforcement. And I'll tell you this, if these Democrat jurisdictions don't enforce the law, Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act and go secure these areas.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, there was a post on X by a Democrat strategist or whatever, and she was complaining about the attacks on, or the vandalism basically of Tesla dealerships. She's like, "Oh, this is going to make it easier for them to institute the Insurrection Act and blah blah blah." And while I don't think that vandalism of Tesla properties is actually, rises to the level of justification for the Insurrection Act, high levels of crime, not that I think crime is going down, even though you are seeing some fairly high profile crimes like this. If crime were to spike again, I think that you might see a more vigorous reaction from the current DOJ and administration.
I think things are getting better, but things ebb and flow in a battle like this. This is, I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me, but I think this is an economic, cultural, political, and spiritual, ethical, moral war battle that's going on among society right now.
Absolutely.
There are some people who are some pretty good thinkers, some folks I respect a lot. I don't know if they'd want me mentioning their names or whatever, but they believe that the next civil war has begun, and we're just in the early stages of it, and nobody really realizes just how bad it's going to be.
Tim didn't say it.
I didn't. So you can't drink. Ray Dalio said it to Tucker Carlson a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's been spoken of quite a bit. I didn't come up with the idea, and I'm not the only one who talks about the idea. Anybody with eyes to see could see that we are on this path. Now, it doesn't mean that it ends in civil war. Civil strife periods are the precursor to civil war. Bleeding Kansas, of course, was the American Civil War, the precursor. But the civil rights era and the protests and the rioting was a civil strife period that did not become a civil war. Right now, however, I think we are so massively entrenched with the Democrat cult machine There's no way to break it. You have people who know they're wrong and don't care they're wrong, they hate. They are fueled by nothing but cult, social adherence, and hatred. So you're not going to tell me that, you know, when you're talking to someone, here, I'll give you an example. There's a viral video where a guy is wearing an American flag on a beanie. It's a black beanie. It's an American flag on it, and he's asking people questions. And a woman says he's clearly an antagonist, far right, trying to disrupt. And he's like, "What? Why?" And she's like, "Because you're wearing an American flag." And he's like, "This is just the hat that I got from REI. I don't know. I'll take it off." She's like, "No, you know what you're doing." So long as those kinds of people exist, and they are fervent and they are violent, and they can be weaponized by more intelligent factions of the far left, Antifa types, this is going to escalate. Now you have that Ziz cult, far leftists, transgender people. They murdered a cop. It was a CBP agent, I believe, or it was CBP. Murdered him because he pulled him over. Now they're on the run, faking their death. Who knows what? Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.